Oscar,
Yes.
I see this guy from a distance. I'm like, this guy looks like Nelson Mandela. I walk up to him and he says, yes, I am. I'm Nelson Mandela's son, oldest son, Oscar.
Yeah.
He's been here he's from Los Angeles just shortly, and then you're going to go back soon?
Sorry.
You're going to go back to Los Angeles soon?
What day I'm gonna go back?
You don't know?
Starting to feel like being in South Africa is with all this panty liner over the face business here. It's like payback for missing out so much when I was in Portugal with Dan and Vanessa last year. I just got a few minutes. I guess part of my journey is to move from being like gutted to accepting, almost like it is what it is and it'll be what it will be. Not much I can yeah, and I was thinking of the irony of having struck out to try and find like that place of calm and closeness with nature. Okay, I'm in a concrete thing right now, but I guess that's a metaphor because really, life has been anything but settled and balanced and harmonious. Which is what I hope yours is. We were talking about the sine wave and up and down, so the sign goes, and that's the sign you're born into. Both the sign of the sun, zodiac, where your moon rising is, other luminaries, other energies that are playing into that. Yeah, this is your sign, as is it seems, epigenetics of your predecessors, at least for a few generations. So each of us is born unique under a unique sign and to unique parents with their own sign or sin. And it's that sin that we're born into that we have to we have to neutralize, we have to bring those sine waves into a balance so that the ups and the downs are small or almost perhaps non-existent. My journey has been anything but green, earth, balance, neutral. So I guess I keep getting tested. But we're all going through a test, so I'm not trying to be a victim with this, but it requires the 7 virtues. Heavenly virtues, as they're known. Look them up if you don't know them, they're important. And I have been for some years now, to honor that. Let's close this window, it's a bit noisy in here. I do apologize for the background chirping of bees and birds and so on. Actually, let me just close that one too. Sorry. We're on bad Wi-Fi, so this is probably that just cost me about half an hour of upload time. I guess I'm at a loss for words. We were in a shopping center a few days ago trying to find a computer. We don't normally go into the big shopping center as much as we can avoid it. And we went to this one. We thought we might get a decent price on a decent laptop, and just the whole experience was horrendous. Because they are absolutely dictatorial with panty liner. Dictatorial here. And the people are, in the main, just eyes down, downcast. Well, you can't really tell from the expression, but there's just no... The funny thing is that this big shopping mall we were in 8 or 9 years ago when we were here, and my dad was getting married to his new wife, and I needed a pair of trousers, and we'd gone there, I think, and Jess had got a dress, Andrew had got Jess a dress or something like that, and it'd been a fun outing, you know, a fun outing, and it was full of people and jollity of, well, so you know, and so it was horrendous, and I couldn't even think too hard in the store. I was like, I got to get out of here, and even there, I had it, you know, on the chin, but still, it's horrible. It's horrible, and I can't help but think that, you know, my cousins in America and in England and other places are going to see what Australia, it seems, is going through in some quarters. I don't know. You hear mixed reports, but how they've continued this thing here in this way. What they've done is they've taken a little bit of the pressure off people in America, I think, over this, with the Biden incoming, and in the UK as well, they've taken the pressure off there, and perhaps in other places, but they've used other points of anger, racism, global warming, you know, climate change, humans are bad, those humans over there are worse, you know, all that kind of thing. They've used that as the you know, as the whipping, as the tool to whip these people, because they want them to feel a sense of shame and guilt and anger. It's out of this brew that they will perhaps bring the next round of fall in line, kowtow, etc., etc. Because that's what I feel, as I mentioned in another video, I think that's what happened here in Zululand or in South Africa is, you know, they had these riots a little while ago, which have just entrenched certain senses of, well, those black folks, they're just, you know, mindless thugs, thieves and whatnot, and the you know, the black people have felt a, you know, sense of guilt and shame because they're associated with such thuggery on purpose. Because, you know, I don't think they're falling in line with the stab-oration thing, the armband business, the Live Aid. Did I mention that guy? They saw that video, 450 Rand, which is to take it, which is a little bit more, just 100 Rand more than they've been getting per month for sort of. You know, to ease the pain of lockdown. So, and then to get that, they have to stand at least a day in a queue. It's insane. 450 Rand, by the way, is 30 pounds, if that. Sorry, not even that. 25 pounds. So yeah, it's a tricky old thing, you know, and I certainly don't want to do it on my own. You know, I do think that this is whatever we're doing, and we are doing something. You know, this is not all gloom and doom. It's just sadness that and having to come to terms with. This is my journey, I guess, having to come to terms with vast loss, because, you know, however this shapes out, you've got sort of a two-world scenario, really, haven't you? And the Neo-Apartheid, as I've heard someone call it. You know, those in and those out, those that can do and those that can't. Do you remember that, was it Jean-Claude Van Damme? No, one of RoboCop, I think, imagines that time when, you know, only the in can get into the Taco Bell, and then everyone else is basically underclass. I don't want to create that, by the way. We are creators, and you know, I want to create something more beautiful than that, more loving, or in tune with our Creator essence. This is the creation we created, and when our minds are not owned by ourselves, controlled by ourselves, then the masses can create pretty much anything. We've imagined massive wars, and we've imagined massive onslaught from the environment on our very precious and frightened physical being. And in this way, we have imagined a situation where staff members who are domestic staff for people in South Africa, some of them have been forced to remain prisoner-like on the grounds of the property that they clean, so as that they don't bring dirt from, the deadly dirt, I should say, from unknown sources. Although obviously in those areas, those African kind of more rural or sometimes more squalid conditions, there is very low take up of the video 19. Very low take up, and in this country they say to those people that you are less susceptible to watch videos and become a zombie, whereas in the UK they say they are more likely, the black folk are more likely to fall prey to the video. So imagine that you for months now, and perhaps for an ongoing time into the future, unless you perhaps concede to becoming a lab rat for Zeneca, then you basically are imprisoned, and you can't socialize, you can't go to church, you can't do any of the things you used to do.
Dad?
Yes, mother.
A new toothbrush.
This is exciting news.
Look how
Oh,
big.
wow.
This is my new toothbrush.
Oh, it's green.
This is my new one.
It's beautiful, Tizzy. Are we going to brush your teeth sometime?
Yeah.
Super. We look forward to doing that. Well, on that note,
Look,
guess.
right here.
wow.
And see what we next go.
Well, there you have it. The virus has finally been isolated. As you can see, this is a depiction of the isolated virus. It has a couple of pluses in it as well, but that's only because there's some new variant. This is just an interesting sight, isn't it? First for me, anyway. No idea what they do or what the score is, but I guess you can work it out for yourself. Fleecing the fear as much as they can. Oh man. Who knows where this ends, but it seems we're living in Baby City. Wonder how it looks from up there. You can probably see a lot further than I can, thanks to perspective and angular resolution. But when you look at this scene here, it's like, you can understand why people say, look, I see the curving, sloping, ball-like, effect here. But people don't realize that our range of view and the amount of atmospheric occlusion through moisture, etc., is limiting the range of my view to, let's just say, 4 kilometers, perhaps, in the distance. And the same rule applies in every distance. It's also only 4 kilometers. So it actually, what it does on a sort of slightly murky day like this, is it actually occludes me seeing as far into the ocean there as I can over there, because I'm having to it's a what's my I'm still, it's 4 kilometers there, but 4 kilometers in that direction isn't as far to the horizon line as it is there, simply because it's off at an angle. So it has that effect of creating a circle of view, a distance of 4 kilometers all the way, which creates an egg or a bubble around me. Very obvious on a day like today. If I had a 360-degree view, I was standing on a small island, it would perhaps seem like that because my range of view was limited to 4 kilometers in every direction. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you noticed how the noise exponentially increased as I moved towards the water, because sound also and light propagates in straight lines pretty much, unless there's some drag. So yeah, I won't talk too long in this wind, but I've got some interesting things to talk about in the next couple of days. Let's see where it goes. Street talking, I will say this, street talking in this area, Durban, has been, in the main, extremely successful. I did some chalk the other day, for example. I might have mentioned that I had a stern talking to this old lady and her nurse daughter, and they had their children with them, about washing my street art away. And then a little later, I watched a lady approach and read it and then remove her nappy. So that was a really nice moment. But only like 20 minutes later, I say to this other 2 ladies come near the car, I say, oh, they grabbed some pink panty liners out of the car, about a half a dozen, gives them to her friend, and I say, those things some people say they're causing people harm, and they mutter something, and then as I drive off, she says to her friend, I hear her say to her friend, look out, the psychopath is leaving. We live in a world of inversion, and you hear it's that the politicians are speaking with forked tongue. And Boris Johnson made an announcement, now being the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 event, that this event has created great harmony and coming together, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. It's created much more fear, and even a fear of Muslims in general, particularly the fundamentalist types. But so actually, no, I don't think that. And it's created, my dad, because down at the harbour here, my dad had said to me that post 9/11, almost immediately there was a massive overhaul of port security, the checking and logging and blah, 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 blah. And I have to say, last night we checked into this place quite late, and we trying to find a place to stay at the moment where it doesn't require us to walk through crowded lobbies and so on, be forced into the nappy agenda. So we come to this place that I spoke to them about that, and still at their reception I had to go there and do 3 or 4 pieces of paper. I had to fill in 4 pieces of paper, I think, and it was passport numbers, ID numbers, temperature check, a health questionnaire, freaking health questionnaire. So have you, do you have, it's like, since when did a bed and breakfast get to ask me my medical details? But for in a dystopian, psychopathic, forked tongue world. I said to them at the desk, nicely, I said, Stalin would have loved to have had this level of minutiae control and for the people a sense of, I need to report in, I need to check in, I need to fill the forms, I need to obey, follow the rules. And of course these companies who are all in it for the money fall over themselves to try and propagate more of this creation of insanity. I heard this morning, my nephew and I were very close when he was a young boy. I didn't get to see him a lot because I was obviously in England and he was in South Africa. And in 2016, they all came out to, December 2016, they came out to England. We had a big family gathering, and this is when I tried to really grab a hold of my family and say, hey, we're being misled. And it pretty much was the sort of, it put a really deep schism in the family, truthfully, and it's never recovered. And of course, in the last year and a half, people's fears have been doubled down. So the idea that, you know, I could be saying words of truth and honor and so on to them is anathema, and they would prefer to try and avoid me. That's my feeling. And you know, in truth, it is hard for me to kind of just go along into Pleasantville and pretend that all of this super germ fear and sterilization of everything, including mind, body, and soul, is acceptable. You know, I care for the old people who are being affected, and I care very much for the young people who are going through a generational alteration, and who knows how this feels for them in 20 or 30 years' time in terms of the psychological impact. So it brings me to this conversation I have with a guy. We went to this waterfall that I used to play at as a child, Paradise Valley, yesterday, and we were out of a place to stay, and Alexander needs something to do, and it's a beautiful river, beautiful place, environment for him. So we went and spent a few hours down there. But coming out of the car park on my way in, I came across a group of people, like maybe 20 people, maybe a bit more, people who were like on a day trip outing there. And so Andrea says to me, this is your territory, go and have a chat with them. So I went over and spoke to this lady, and she blanked me entirely. I didn't even get to ascertain if she could speak English or understand it. So I was like, a little deflated by that. But I went over to the men's side of this group and started talking to an older guy. And pretty soon there was a little group of guys listening to what I had to say. And really, I hit a fertile territory there, and I met a couple of guys, one Dudu. I have to learn to pronounce his name. Apologizing for absolutely obliterating his name, but I can spell it, but the pronunciation is still a little bit off the tongue. That's 30 years since I was hanging out with Zulus and folks at this part of the world. Anyway, so I have this great conversation with these guys, and Dudu says to me, hey, look, we're getting together with a group of people who are concerned about what's going on and have an insight as to this isn't what the politicians are telling me, and would you like to come along? I'd like to hear more from you. I want to learn more, and so on. And so, it's this kind of into a community, people who are confused. One of the most obvious features of some of these poorer areas is the satellite dish. It's almost ubiquitous now. You got a shack that no one would want to live in unless, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, people wouldn't even, they'd be like, that's not even a shed, what are you doing putting me in there? But they've got a satellite dish attached to that shed. And we've seen that all over in the places we've been to. So, it's for the system, it's been a very important part of the evolution from the racist apartheid government into an inclusive rainbow lie government. So that these folks would be empowered, got given the right information, because they don't necessarily get the newspaper. Some may not even have a smartphone, but they've got the satellite dish, which is ensuring that they are well plugged in, as in they live. But they are also a little cautious, a little wary. The older generation were beaten down by apartheid, but this middle generation, I think, the younger men, 30, 40-year-old men, this generation are perhaps not as afflicted by the poison of apartheid. And so it would seem to me that these are the people that I have had the most success in trying to join information with, and I'm hopeful that it's going to lead to an opportunity to speak to Lulu's friends sometime soon, and open the door to doing more work. But now, you guys must know this already, that we are in pretty bizarre times, given all of the things that people are doing to themselves, like regular toxification of the hands upon entering, leaving, any kind of thing. The increased toxification of the airways due to the recycling of the CO2, and the psychological, scarring of nappy wearing. We were meant to leave the nappies when we were 2 years old, and now it's, so that's a big psychological thing. And of course, we don't look at each other. I mean, it may be different in other parts of the world that haven't got this level of draconianism, but people don't look at each other, people don't love each other anymore in that way. So this is also going to cause people illness. And what I was going to say about my nephew, who's marrying, I didn't say that, did I say this? He's marrying today, a snap wedding. I mean, he's been with his partner a long time, lovely lady, but they were going. I think they were going to marry next year or something. But her mother died recently of COVID. So the doctors tell them, young, my age, I suppose, maybe a little older, but and what a tragic thing. Because then now, whatever you may think about the PCR test and its very broad kind of poking in and seeing like a whole lot of things and coming back with a positive or negative. As we know, that CV-19 has never been isolated, so they're not actually testing for that one thing. As the guy invented the test said, it's a broad spectrum test. It's not going to give you a definitive, that's exactly what you're looking for, and that's what we found, which is why people can pass the test. As this kid said the other day, he said, our classroom's been shut down because someone failed the test, but we don't even know who that person was, because you can apparently be super fit, super well, and pass the test, or fail the test, depending on your perspective. So, trying to tell people that it can't be, a minor throat scratchy throat for me and for my friend who's the same age, same fitness, same wellness. For him, it's a death sentence. It doesn't stack up in the logic department at all. What we know is that you could get pneumonia or bad flu in the past, and if you were 25 years old, you'd probably be in bed for a couple of days and, back on your feet, soon enough. Whereas if you are old, you've got a high toxic load in your system, particularly, it's easier to look at this at post 80-year-olds, you can be so frail at that stage that even the common cold could have you in bed for days, and a pneumonia could be, as the case of my father-in-law was his final sort of condition, if you like. Of course, it wouldn't be called that today. It would be called the other thing, wouldn't it? Yeah, you wouldn't have died of that. No. Post years of chemotherapy, a year of maybe 9 months of chemotherapy, extreme chemotherapy into the brain. No, it wouldn't be any of those things. And in the case of anyone losing their human life story now, or ending their life story now, if they're in that category of the younger people who weren't particularly unwell, then you have to ask the question, if you're being honest, did they take the stab in the arm? Did they? Because if they did, that changes. That has to be, because virologists will tell you that the only way to get a virus in, I've heard say, the only way to get a virus into the body is to inject it in. The viruses are otherwise intracellular activity that you get preloaded with from birth. So, and they only kick off in times of extreme need when there's toxic load, right? So what we're seeing is people toxifying themselves without really thinking about it. You know, the jail, stale air, the no loving, the no hugging, the no doing the things that I used to do, the activities of life that kept my pumps, my Taurus wheels pumping, you know, working, the chakra wheels. You know, we need to be doing the stretching and the sun gazing and the earthing and the natural eating and the less stressing and all these sorts of things. This is how we stay well in the normal world. Anyway, the point is that unfortunately all of these behaviors that we've adopted in late recent times are not ever considered by people. You know, the emotion of it, the mental imagery that's been connected to it over the last 18 months is so powerful that even asking the question, did they take any, have they followed all the clever guidance offered by their fork-tongued masters? And if the answer is yes, it's like, well, then those are things that are mitigating good health. And if you can't recognize that these things are coming as part of the problem, then unfortunately you're only going to see it as a consequence of the truth that is being spoken by the masters. And so for someone else saying something other than that, they're the psychopath, not the great leader from above. And I don't mean God, of course. I mean government, mental control. Anyway, I'll jump off the soapbox. Catch you guys later. No, there was one more thing. So, you know, the fruit in my mind is saying, you know, like, you know, if I've been talking about doing flyers, Dave Weiss offered to give me a little help with that, and I haven't yet been able to strike on that offer because I'm not exactly sure how to cast this message. You know, I want not to create division, continue to create division with the people, and this new apartheid over you know, those that'll take it in the arm and those that won't, is just another tool of division. So, you know, how do you put a message out, a loving message about who we are, the nature of this place, without antagonizing those whose sensitivities have been piqued by propaganda? And as part of that, you know, like when I'm at a slightly different part of Durban, a little bit down the coast, and it made me think, gosh, you know, there's so many of these places along the coastline that if I had to just drive, Alexander's in a pretty good space right now, and I feel like, because, you know, changing accommodation day to day or every few days or whatever is very unsettling. However, if we were on like a tour and we were doing, you know, I feel like we can, you know, he's in a good space that I would feel comfortable, you know, doing a bit of bouncing down the coast, maybe towards the Cape. Not that I want to go to Cape Town to collect any of my suitcase, but and my tools, which are still down there. It is 1,000 miles, by the way, for those who don't know the geography. Interesting, isn't it? It's like, anyway, I won't go from there. It's you know, what I want to do is to maybe, you know, think about that, you know, do a flyering thing or this thing or that thing, and if I can do that, or if we're going to do that, then of course I'm going to be looking to the community for support to achieve that. So yeah, just put that on your radar. See how that goes.